A 90-pound German Shepherd that 3 families had given back in 18 months was found chained to a guardrail on Route 9 outside Asheville, North Carolina, soaked through in a November rain. Everyone agreed on one thing. This dog was unadoptable, a lost cause, too damaged to trust. Then, a barely walking toddler did something at the rescue that nobody, not the staff, not the volunteers, not even the woman who saved him, could explain. And what came after that changed everything. Holly Bennett was 34, a labor and delivery nurse who lived alone with her 1-year-old daughter Posy in a small craftsman house in West Asheville. Her marriage had ended quietly the year before. She wasn't lonely exactly, but the house had a kind of stillness in it that she felt most at the end of long shifts, walking in at midnight to a sleeping baby and a silence that pressed against her chest. She was not looking for a dog. She had no plan to bring 90 pounds of anything into her life. His name, the one the rescue gave him, was Rook, a 90-pound German Shepherd with a classic black and tan saddle, ears that swiveled at every sound, and dark eyes that seemed to track everyone in a room at once. He had been pulled off Route 9 by a passing trucker who saw him chained to a guardrail in the rain. No collar, no tag, just a length of cable and a dog who had stopped pulling against it. Whoever left him there never came back. By the time Holly met him, Rook had been adopted and returned 3 separate times in 18 months. The first family kept him 11 days and said he was too much dog for their apartment. The second lasted a month before complaining that he wouldn't settle, that he paced the house at night like he was looking for something. The third family returned him after a single weekend, writing on the form that he watched their kids too closely and it unsettled them. Each time he came back a little quieter than before, as if a piece of him stayed behind in every house that decided he wasn't worth keeping. The rescue staff didn't call him unadoptable out loud, but they thought it. They watched a strong, intelligent 4-year-old dog learn, return by return, that nothing was permanent. He stopped greeting visitors. He stopped lifting his head when leashes jingled. He lay in the back of his run with his nose toward the wall, and he waited for nothing at all. A volunteer named Marcus was the only one who ever got a response out of him. Every evening, Marcus would sit outside the run and read aloud from whatever paperback was in his jacket. Rook never moved toward him, but his ears would turn, just slightly, toward the sound of a human voice that wanted nothing from him. For a year and a half, that was the only thread connecting Rook to the world. Still haven't subscribed? That one honestly stings.
Holly only stopped by the rescue that Saturday because Posy had pointed at the building from the car seat and squealed. She had no intention of going in, but Posy was insistent in the way only a 1-year-old can be, and Holly figured they would look at the dogs for 10 minutes and leave. Posy toddled down the row of runs, holding Holly's 2 fingers for balance. She ignored the barking dogs, the jumping dogs, the ones pressing eagerly against the gates. She walked, unsteady and determined, all the way to the last run, where a 90-pound German Shepherd lay facing the wall. And then Posy let go of Holly's hand, pressed her small palm flat against the chain link, and said the only word she really knew yet: "Hi." Rook lifted his head. For a long moment, he just looked at the tiny human with her hand against his gate. Then he stood, crossed the run slowly, and lowered his enormous head until his nose touched her fingers through the wire. He didn't bark, he didn't shy away. He let out one long breath, the kind that empties everything. Posy laughed, delighted, and patted the chain link with her flat little palm, and Rook's tail moved just once, just barely, the first time anyone at the rescue had seen it move in months. The volunteer beside Holly went quiet. "He hasn't done that," he said softly. "Not for anyone, not once." Marcus, the man who had read paperbacks outside his run for a year and a half, came over and stood watching with his arms crossed and his jaw tight, and didn't trust himself to say anything at all. Holly looked at the dog 3 families had given back, the dog found chained in the rain, the dog who had given up on people entirely, and the dog looked back at her daughter like she was the first thing worth standing up for in 18 months. "What do I need to do to take him home?" Holly said. It wasn't really a question. The first weeks were not easy. Rook didn't know how to live in a home that intended to keep him. He flinched at the sound of the front door. He wouldn't eat unless Holly sat on the kitchen floor beside his bowl. He paced the hallway after dark, checking the same windows again and again, a dog rehearsing a loss that had already happened to him 3 times. But wherever Posy was, Rook was a shadow length away, not crowding, just present. When she napped, he lay across her doorway. When she ate in her high chair and flung half of it on the floor, he cleaned it up and then rested his chin on the tray like he was guarding the rest.
When she took her wobbling steps across the living room, he walked beside her at exactly her pace, a 90-pound spotter for a 22-pound tightrope walker. The first time she fell, he didn't bark or panic. He simply stepped sideways so she landed against his ribs instead of the hardwood, then waited, patient as a wall, until she grabbed his fur and hauled herself back up. Holly started noticing the smaller things, the ones that made her laugh out loud in an empty house. Every morning, Rook carried one specific item to Posy's crib, a yellow sock, always the left one of a particular pair, and dropped it through the bars like a gift. Where he found it each day, nobody knew. She'd bought 3 new pairs. It was always, somehow, the same left sock. He had a habit of huffing through his nose, a big, indignant sound, every time Posy babbled at him, as if he were answering her in a language only the two of them spoke. He would station himself outside the bathroom door when Holly showered, and outside the kitchen when she cooked, doing slow rounds of the house like a guard on a payroll only he knew about. Holly caught herself filming it at 11 p.m., laughing alone at her kitchen table for the first time in a year. Stories like this are exactly why we make these. If it's reaching you, you're not the only one. There was a thing about German shepherds the 3 families never learned. They were bred to watch, to herd, to keep a living thing safe inside an invisible circle. A shepherd without something to protect isn't a calm dog. He's a dog with all that purpose and nowhere to put it. Rook hadn't been watching those other kids too closely because something was wrong with him. He'd been watching because no one had ever told them those children were his to keep. Posy was his to keep, and he had decided the moment she pressed her hand against his gate. The night that changed everything came in late January at 2:51 a.m. Asheville had gone bitterly cold, the kind of cold that makes old houses tick and groan. Holly was asleep after a double shift, the kind of exhaustion that pulls you down so deep you don't dream. The furnace in the basement was old, older than she'd realized when she bought the house, and somewhere in its aging guts, something cracked, and a thin, colorless ribbon of carbon monoxide began seeping up through the floor vents. There was no smell, no sound, no alarm because the detector in the hallway had a battery Holly kept meaning to replace and never had. It is the quietest danger there is. It doesn't wake you, it simply lets you keep sleeping. But Rook woke up. He stood in Posy's doorway with his hackles up, and then he did something he had never done inside that house. He barked. Loud, ragged, relentless. And when that didn't bring Holly fast enough, he ran to her bedroom, seized the hem of her blanket in his teeth, and dragged it clean off the bed. Holly awoke with a pounding headache and a dog frantically pulling at her. Her thoughts were thick, slow, wrong, but Rook would not let her lie back down. He herded her, physically herded her toward Posy's room and then toward the front door, shouldering her legs every time she swayed. She scooped Posy from the crib, stumbled out onto the freezing porch, and gulped the clean night air until her head began to clear enough to understand. The fire department later confirmed it. Carbon monoxide well into the dangerous range. A few more hours asleep in that house, the captain told her gently, and the morning might have looked very different for both of them. Rook had no way to understand a furnace, but he understood that something was wrong with the air around the people who were his, and he refused, the way he had always refused, to let anyone take them from him. When they were finally allowed back inside 2 days later, Holly sat down on the living room floor and pulled the 90-pound shepherd against her. The dog 3 families gave back. The dog left chained in the rain. She pressed her face into his fur and stayed there a long time. "You weren't too much," she whispered. "Everyone else just wasn't yours." Rook leaned his whole weight into her, and something in him that had been braced for 18 months finally, quietly let go. Today, Posy is 3, Rook is 6. He still sleeps across her doorway every night. He still carries the left yellow sock to her bed each morning, and Holly has long since tried to figure out where he keeps finding it. He still huffs through his nose when Posy talks to him, and she huffs right back, the two of them deep in a conversation no one else will ever translate. The neighbors who used to give a wide berth to the big shepherd on the leash now keep treats in their pockets for the gentle dog who lets a preschooler braid the fur on his ears in the front yard. The trucker who first found him chained on Route 9 even came by once after the story made the local news, just to see how the dog he'd pulled out of the rain had turned out. He stayed an hour. The new carbon monoxide detector on the wall has a fresh battery, but Holly says she sleeps soundly for a different reason. He's down the hall. He's always down the hall. When a dog has been given back again and again, it's easy to believe the dog is the problem. The label sticks before anyone bothers to ask what's underneath it. But sometimes a dog isn't broken. Sometimes he's just waiting for the one person, or the one small, unsteady, hand against the gate person who was always meant to be his. Rook didn't need to be fixed. He needed to be chosen. And a 1-year-old chose him before anyone else ever bothered to look.